G'day everyone, welcome back to another tipping video on the channel. So going to be going over my tips for round 1 of the 2025 AFL season. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you do go on to enjoy today's video. And without further ado, let's get straight into it. Okay, so my opening round tips, I managed to get myself a 1 out of 2. Just the 2 games, obviously, with the 2 other Queensland games being cancelled with the weather. Tip the Swannies, just had the confidence in them, and it was a big test for the Hawks, but geez, what a mature win it was. They were really impressive of their 20-point win over the Swannies up in Sydney. And the Giants, how about that? They really flexed their muscles as the game wore on. That fourth quarter, dominant as they smacked the Pies by 52 points. Luckily I got that tip correct, and it's nice to start the season with at least 1 tip correct. And if you haven't already, feel free to join my tipping competition. It is free to do so. First link down in the description, and there are some cash prizes for the top places at the end of the season. So now we get into the meat and potatoes of the AFL season. I think this is what 95% of the fan base, probably even more, wants, just to start off the year with 9 games. But here we go, round 1, and we start with a game we're all too familiar with the season opener. We've got the classic Richmond versus Carlton matchup at the MCG, and what might be one of the more one-sided ones in the past few seasons. But interestingly enough, this matchup the past 2 years has actually been very good. Of course, it was a draw in 2023, and then last year, I think the Blues only got up by under a kick. Certainly expecting this to be a bit of a different tale right off the bat, though. You know, the Blues look promising in their preseason hit out against the Giants. You know, the turnover and ball movement game was what really caught the eye, but again, it's only preseason. And as for the Tigers, I think we're all expecting them to be in for a long year with the kids they're going to play. I'm hearing Lawler is looking like he's ready to go to make his debut. There's also Luke Traynor looking like he's a chance to get his very first game training in the A sides. And also Harry Armstrong, the key forward that he'd taken last year's draft. As I said in my season predictions video, I still feel like the Tigers, they've surely got to get a win this year. And I think they'll push a lot of good quality teams. But just from a 4-quarter perspective, it's hard to see them get the job done here over a Carlton side with just a lot more experience on paper and so much more expectation. They will be without 𝐼𝐿𝐴 𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐾 though, but I feel like they'll have the firepower enough in the forward half with Harry McKay. Brodie Kemp's also going to be playing as a mainstay forward this year too. And also late draftee 𝘐𝐿𝐴 𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐾 is going to get his first game too, looking like he's going to play on the wing. I think we can all agree here, the Blues really should be winning this one well. I still feel like maybe for a period the Tigers could push them here. You know, they still have premiership players on their best 22 list, but let's be real here. I think the Blues just far too good on paper, and they should find a way to win well. So go the Blues here on Thursday Night Footy by 25 points. Friday Night Footy now, we've got an absolute beauty on here at the MCG, Hawthorn versus the Dons, and it's been a fixture that has been dominated by Essendon the last 2 times they've played, but this is a much more different Hawthorn when comparing to the last 2 times these sides have played. Off the back of just a really mature and impressive win over the Sydney Swans, you could tell with the acquisitions they've gotten in the off-seasons of Tom Barrass and Josh Battle, they're looking a lot more solidified defensively, especially aerially. You know, they brained the Swannies in intercept marks, I think it was like 25-5, having a bit more of that luxury and security to throw James Sicily forward as well. And they also smashed the Swans around the ball, especially in that first half. They were just belting them in the contested possessions and especially the stoppage game. Woolday was instrumental to that, so I think Sam Durham is the one that will probably get the job on him. I think the Dons just have to bring relentless heat around the ball. That's what Hawthorn were able to do really well against the Swans, especially in their forward half. What really impressed me in pre-season for the Dons was their front half pressure and just their ability to win more contests at half forward. And, you know, the move of Nick Martin to the half forward line I think is going to create them a lot more opportunity and impact forward the ball. It's a critical importance if the Dons want to get up here. They've got to break even in that contested game and try and win more stoppage. They're going to be without James Worpel too. He's out for a few weeks with an ankle concern. Draper's looked really promising the preseason too. We all know about Lloyd Meek's physicality, so he's really got to try and rival it up in those ruck contests. I think the Dons are getting slept on quite a bit this season overall. They're only 9% tipped at the time of recording this video, but just what the Hawks were able to dish up last week was impressive. That big ground in the MCG, I feel like they can get a bit of their expansive free-flowing ball movement going. I'll go with the Hawks here. Just was really impressed with how they went last week, and I think the trend will continue here. They'll knock off the Dons in a pretty cagey affair, but they'll run away with it and win by 14. And now the Saturday games. First one up at 1:20 PM down at the Cannery. The Cats kick off their year against a bit of a bogey side, especially at this ground against the Fremantle Dockers. The last few times the Dockers have played here, they've been able to win. The Cats, they are going to be getting Bailey Smith for this game though. He's raring to go, so how will he fare in those centre bounce mixes? Expect a bit of Tom Stewart and also Paddy Dangerfield and young Mitch Nevitt to be thrown in there as well. And as for Fremantle, they were one of the best stoppage sides in the competition last year. So it's just the other things of their game. You know, are they going to be a lot more of a consistent ball moving and efficient side in transition? The Cats are one of the best sides in the AFL as always on setting up behind the footy too, so they just can't be predictable. The forward half though just looks so physical, especially in the air. Josh Tracy, 𝐼𝐴 if they can really beat out the likes of Jack Henry and 𝐬𝐿𝐼𝐿 𝐎𝐿𝐼, they'll definitely be pivotal to their scoring. Big watch for the Cats though is how they'll fare on that front half game. Their smalls get so highly involved, they push up the stoppage, and just their ability to spread is game changing. So that Freo defence has really got to watch out. First game of the season for both sides. I think they'll be up there this year. So, yeah, it's a tough one to tip. I feel like going safe for the Cats here, but something just tells me Fremantle can set to start their seasons very well here. So, I'm going to go against the grain. I feel like Freo can really head down to the Cattery and make it 3 from 3. The last 3 games they've played at the Cattery, they've all got wins. Just feel like their midfield can really get to work and just brain the Cats in stoppage. And if they really defend well as a back 6 and stop the likes of Stengel and Brad Close and Grind Myers in transition, I think the Dockers can get a bit of a unlikely win here, given the percentage of tipping with the Cats being 86 at the moment. So yeah, the Dockers, I'm feeling this one. Going against grain, they'll get a close win here by 9 points. Next game up at the SCG, we have the Swans taking on the Lions for a bit of a grand final rematch here. Sydney's outing last week, there were plenty of positives and negatives to take out of it. If Ollie Florent didn't have that shocking kick right down Connor McDonald's throat, it might have been a bit of a different tale. There were a few issues, and especially in that first half, they were just well beaten around the footy, especially in the stoppage game. And their defensive efforts and pressure was also a bit of a letdown. A lot of missed tackles. So we all know what happened that grand final. The Swans had one of their worst ever pressure ratings. So they just have to really get back to basics and bring relentless heat, especially in the front half. Brisbane, no doubt, will be ready to go and fired up to play their first game. And just the midfield on paper, it's just such a talented one. A stacked list, of course. They obviously had the recipe to smack the Swans back in September, just their uncontested game. That's what was key. And in the key moments, just braining them in the centre clearances. So I think the Swans are a little bit more disciplined on being able to bring more pressure and able to at least get a lot more supply. They only had 40 inside 50s last week, and the Swans looked very damaging going inside 50, and they're also very, very damaging from stoppage too. I think they kicked like 8 goals for. So it's about the supply. If they can break even in the contest and really move the footy well in the front half, well, I think they are a chance to bounce back here. But Brisbane, their first game of the year, they're a mature side, and they always match up well against the Swannies. So I'm going to be going with the Lions here. They are the favourites for this game. And just a lack of confidence, I feel, also as a bit of a Sydney supporter, given this is a grand final rematch. I think just Brisbane's class, especially in that midfield, will get the job done and win by 18 points. For the Saturday night games now, first one up, we have the Dogs taking on North Melbourne at Marvel Stadium. No Treloar, no Bontempelli. Richards isn't going to be 100%. Dale isn't going to be 100%. 𝐼𝐻𝐿𝐼𝐻𝐿's also out, and there's just a few others that I probably can't think of at the top of my head at the moment. Why can't North win this game? There is a lot of expectations from the Kangas this year. You know, they traded away their future first pick last year. So this obviously means internally they know that they can get out of the bottom 4 and they can compete and they can get more wins this year. And I think it's a perfect time to be playing the Dogs, especially on the lid at Marvel, where they arguably play their best footy too. The recruits they've had with Parker and Daniel, and also Jack Darling forward of the ball. Sheezel looks great in pre-season. Cherry looks like he's going to have another strong year too. Powell, could he really carry the load this year alongside the likes of LDU? There's a lot of promise for the Kangas. There's a handful of promising players coming through for the Dogs this year. I think Fraser can go to the next level. I've been hearing he could potentially play in the midfield. Rory Lobb is a key defender. Feel like if he's able to keep fit, it will be high up there for the intercepting mark statistic. And I feel like they've still got enough dangerous players forward of the ball, especially Norton and also Sam Darcy. What has been evident for the Kangas too is they still get killed defensively. And if they are able to really neaten up with the use inside 50 of the Dogs, you know, they could brain North Melbourne with marks inside 50. So that could be a big area of their score source come Saturday night. So yeah, I think the Dogs for this one. I'll play it safe. I know they have their outs. I'm keen to see how North Melbourne go, but I just think the Dogs will still give them a bit of a touch-up and be that class above. Fairly close game, I reckon, but yeah, be a bit of a scrappy contest, but the Dogs will get the win and win this one by 21. Other Saturday night game, we've got the Pies taking on Port Adelaide at the MCG. Dear me, it was an absolute horror show from the Pies on opening round against the Giants. But there were positives to take out of it at least. They were winning the inside 50s like 13-3 halfway through the third. But geez, that ball movement, it was awfully slow. A lot of long bombs to the likes of Membry. They didn't get much service in the air. And to be fair, the Giants are a very good defensive outfit. But what also was a big concern on just how they defended. The Giants spread out, totally outdid the Pies, and that's where Port Adelaide can really get opposition teams as well. They are a very fast-moving ball side. They love to go through the corridors, so the Pies definitely got to watch out for that. They've got to be a lot more accountable on Saturday night. And look, it's a sunny day up in Sydney. You picture Collingwood at their best. It's, under the bright lights of the MCG. So I'm feeling a bit of a bounce back here. I'm expecting to play much better football. Dan Houston will make his return from suspension and will play his former side. So that should give him a lot more classier ball movement, I think. He's one of the best kicks out of the D50 in the competition. No doubt a big game for Port Adelaide as well. They don't usually fare to play that well against the Pies. They haven't knocked them off, I think, in the past few times. And the MCG, that's where they seem to absolutely crap their pants. So on paper, their midfield does look better. I know they're without Zach Butters, but 𝐼𝙗𝐿𝐴 can definitely break a game open. Same with Jason Horne-Francis as well. His ability to win clearance, outstanding. And his long stride, similar to what 𝐼𝐴 𝐼𝐿𝐴 did last week. Horne-Francis can certainly do that as well. So I feel like this is sort of a game where Port Adelaide could get them for a half. But, the Pies under the lights of the MCG, I'll just back them here. Feels like a safe tip. Expecting to bring back a lot more better intensity and pressure around the ball. And if they neaten up those inside 50s, unlike last week, I feel like they can get the chocolates here. So we'll go Collingwood in this one by 15 points. For the Sunday games now, first one up, we do have the Crows taking on the Saints at the Adelaide Oval. It feels like it's finals or bust under Matty Nicks, and they want to start off their season, especially at home, on a good note here against St Kilda, where they're a bit of a head scratcher, and they just have so many injuries across many lines too. One of the more younger teams are going to be fielding in round one, no doubt as well. And the Adelaide Oval doesn't really seem to be much of a happy hunting ground for the Saints as well. They haven't seemed to win there in quite some time. Apparently Mitch Owens is still a decent chance to be playing this game, so they really need his physicality, especially forward of centre. We'll see a handful of young players in there though. Box will get his debut, and there's also Max Hall thrown in there as well. Another one that's been talked about quite a little bit is Hugo Garcia. How will he fare this year? So there's a bit to like about the Saints, but just don't have the confidence to back them in here. There's so much expectation on Adelaide, and off the back of a really good-looking pre-season performance, I think they can carry that into round one and get some of their good footy going here. When they're able to move the ball well, they are a very damaging team, especially at home at the Adelaide Oval. So we'll back in the Crows here. I think I can win this one well. We'll go the Crows by 30 points. Next Sunday game we have at the MCG, Melbourne taking on GWS. And geez, did the Giants look impressive with their opening round performance win over the Pies. Just their ability to spread and how they move the footy was really special. But their pressure is relentless, and they are just such a well-drilled and well-balanced team. And that really all came to the fore in their win also against the Pies. They were brilliant as defending as well as a back six. Just didn't allow the Pies some easy shots on goal. So definitely going to be heading into this game against the D's with all sorts of confidence off the back as well. Finn Cullen having an outstanding game. Pretty sure as well Tom Green will be fit to be playing this game too. So that's a big reinforcement heading into their midfield game. And that's an area where Melbourne will definitely identify as a bit of a weakness. GWS, usually in the contest, aren't usually one of the more stronger teams. They have to rely a lot of their pressure and just wing those key stoppages. So Melbourne, with a lot more of a fully fit Petrarca and Oliver heading into this season, it's absolutely paramount that they really brain the Giants in what they were good at the past few years. That contest and also defense and turnover game. They've really got to get back to some of their best. They're going to be without Kieran Briggs as well, the Giants. So Max gone against 𝐼𝐴𝐿𝐴 𝐿𝐴. This could be an influential matchup for the Demons here. Can he really carry his team over the line? He's just huge on grabbing out of the ruck, getting key clearances. Jacob Van Rooyen will be available for this game, I'm pretty sure. Apparently he's been training fairly well when he did have those back spasm injuries against the Dockers the previous week in pre-season. Melbourne to kick off their season on a good note with a strong performance. I can definitely see it, but just with how GWS played last week, that's going to give them, I feel, a lot of confidence. And we all know the MCG, it's a big wide open ground. That's where the Giants can really get some of their run and carry going. I feel this one will be pretty even throughout, but the class of the Giants, I think, can run away with this one, and they'll win this game by 24 points. And for the final game of the round, over in Perth, we have the Eagles taking on the Suns at Optus Stadium. Their mental toughness and just their execution in key moments last year just wasn't good enough. And as Damien Hardwick said, they're a side that just has to grow up, and they need to start the season well, setting their tone with a win away from home. But at the same time, I don't want to write off West Coast right away. I think they're going to be a side with a lot more better players on paper. Jack Graham and also Liam Baker, and especially Matt Owies adding a bit more of a dynamic edge in that forward half. Noah Long returning from a long-term injury too. So expect Jack Graham to, try and lock down a Noah Anderson. Don't allow him to move freely around the stoppage. Given this is at home, I don't mind the Eagles for the tip here, especially to start off their season well. Especially a lot more of those fans over in Perth have got a lot of expectations that they've got to get more wins this year with the acquisitions they do have. If the Eagles are able to get a lot more first use in stoppage and outdo the Suns here in the contested game, don't mind them here, but I just think the Suns, there's just so much expectation and they're a much more better team and quality-wise than the Eagles here. So I'll back in Gold Coast just purely because, I want to have confidence in them, feeling like they should be a good enough team to knock off a side like West Coast in Perth. And can they look a lot more neater with their injuries inside 50? Because that's what really killed them last year in a lot of losses, their efficiency. So I'll back in the Suns a bit unconvincingly, but I feel like they've got to really grow up as a team here and they should be good enough to knock off the Eagles here in Perth. So we'll go the Suns in a close one by 11 points. So everyone, there were my tips for round 1 of the 2025 AFL season. Let me know your tips down below in the comments. Are you going something a little bit different from mine? Love to hear your people's opinions. Keen for these games though this weekend. I think there's a lot to learn about these sides and there's some juicy looking matchups. So yeah, I'm all for it this weekend. Keen to see how these teams do fare. Thanks very much for tuning in, everybody, and until next time, I'll talk to you later. See you later, folks.